What's up, Guardians? Profane here. Thanks for checking out the video. About a month ago, I put out a video on a StrandTitan build featuring the Synthoceps, a build that at the time reigned supreme as the ultimate StrandTitan build. Well, a month has passed, a new season has arrived, and a new artifact is here. Oh, and the Synthoceps, well, they got nerfed. This was a big bummer, but when a door closes, a window opens. The fall of the Synthoceps has led to the rise of the Wormgod Caress. While one exotic saw a nerf, the other saw a major buff. And truth be told, I think the Wormgods now make for a much better build than the Synthoceps ever did. The Wormgods has given Titans an extremely powerful exotic to easily trade out Synthoceps with, and it pairs up with the Strand Banner of War so freaking well. So today we're going to be going over this magnificent creature of chaos so that you will have a top tier build to solo any dungeon, to take on any Nightfall, Lost Sector, or raid in Season of the Wish. Wormgod Caress comes with the intrinsic trait called Burning Fists, which saw a complete rework of its functionality. When active, you'll see a Burning Fist meter bar on your bottom left, indicating how charged up your fists are. Every melee, glaive melee, or finisher final blow grants a stack of Burning Fists, and this maxes out at 5 stacks. With each stack of Burning Fists, you'll gain an incremental increase in the damage of glaives, melees, and weapon damage. This starts as a 55% increase in melee damage and maxes out at 275, which far surpasses that of the Synthoceps. Glaive damage is increased by 40% at 1 stack, but climbs up to 200% at 5. Weapon damage of any kind is increased by 20% when at 2 stacks, and by the time you reach 5 stacks, you're at 35% increased damage. Without any additional final blows, a 5 stack of Burning Fists will last 3 seconds before it depreciates down to 4 stacks, which will last 4 more seconds. It'll then depreciate down to 3 stacks, which will last for 4 seconds, and then down to 2 stacks, lasting 10 seconds, with 1 stack lasting 9, allowing Burning Fist to be active for a lot longer than it used to be. In situations where there's a heavy flow of enemies, it will become pretty easy to maintain at least 3 or more stacks of Burning Fists. With the previous version of Wormgod, it was never used as a DPS exotic. The Synthoceps was always a better option because it was nearly impossible to carry the bonus damage of Burning Fist over into damage phases. But now that we have a meter that depreciates slowly, we can easily carry over at least a 3 stack of Burning Fists into every damage phase against most any dungeon, raid, or Nightfall boss. And since Wormgods now provides a weapon damage bonus that will stack on top of other universal buffs and weapon surge mods, you'll be able to dish out an incredible amount of damage. The Wormgod Caress pairs up beautifully with solar builds this season, especially when using the solar-oriented artifact mods. But the synergy that's created between Wormgod and Banner of War is out of this world and will extend beyond this season. It's just on a whole nother level. It's almost like a few of those devs at Bungie might be secret StrandTitan mates. Wink wink. Now, Banner of War did see some reworks to its functionality this season, and not the good kind. Bungie increased how many enemies must be defeated to move further up the chains. Whenever defeating enemies with swords, glaive melees, finishers, or light super attacks, Banner of War will activate, granting a 10-meter wide banner lasting 30 seconds, with additional kills extending that time. Banner of War provides you and allies with pulses of health recovery. Each pulse generates every 2.5 seconds, granting 20 points of health each time. As you increase the stack of Banner of War, these health pulses will occur faster, as fast as 1 pulse every second. There's a total of 4 stacks to Banner of War, and to climb through each of those stacks, you'll need to defeat 7 enemies, which really isn't that much if you're in an activity solo. While the banner is up, you and allies will gain 40% increased melee damage, 25% increased glaive damage, and 10% sword damage. All of these being able to stack right on top of the bonus provided by Wormgod. So we're actually getting up to a 75% bonus in sword damage, and up to a 265% increase in glaive melee damage, and as much as a 315% increase in our melee damage when we're at 4 stacks of Banner of War and 5 stacks of Burning Fist. And all of these are going to be active as long as we're actively engaged in combat. Strand offers a slew of overpowered abilities that you just don't get with other subclasses. A high-powered roaming super that allows you to hit a boss or enemies several times over. You get 3 melee charges plus a grenade melee that's going to hit several enemies at once. Plus there's Tangles, which provides several benefits of their own. Personally, I love throwing one of these and then grappling to it, launching myself forward straight into enemies, and maintaining my grenade charge in the process. Since we're using Into the Fray, destroying Tangles will grant us and nearby allies with Woven Mail, providing us with a 60-point overshield. While Woven Mail is active, melee regeneration gets increased by 400%, allowing us to perform overpowered Frenzied Blades much more often. When it comes to Fragments, we're using Thread of Generation. Dealing damage of any kind generates a small amount of extra grenade energy. This includes weapon damage, ability damage, and damage from Tangles. Thread of Warding will cause Orb Collection to grant Woven Mail, adding to the Woven Mail that will be activated when Tangles are destroyed. This will ensure that not only are we able to get Woven Mail activated, but we're getting it regenerated as well. We're using Thread of Fury so that when we damage enemies with Tangles, we'll get melee energy in return. This grants between 10 and 30% extra melee energy based on the combatant's tier level. And lastly, since we are using the grapple melee attack, using Thread of Ascent will serve as a perfect complement, and one that can provide a lot of benefits when it comes to damage phases. Activating our grenade ability automatically reloads our equipped weapon. This also improves airborne effectiveness and handling for a short time, but the main benefit here is the automatic reloading of weapons. Now, before we jump over to the weapons and the armor that's going to create the best harmony with this Wormgod Caress and Banner of War build, let's talk about the seasonal artifact. It's no lie that solar subclasses have benefited the most with this season's artifact, but there are quite a few mods that can still provide us with some significant benefits, starting with Wished into Being. When our super energy is close to being full, ability kills will generate extra orbs. When running the heavy-handed mod, this is going to grant as many as 3 orbs when this mod triggers. We're also using Unraveling Orbs. Picking up an orb grants any strand weapon with unraveling rounds, allowing them to pierce barrier shields and any other types of combatant shields. We'll get into our weapon choices a little bit later in the video, but as you've surely noticed, a strand shotgun is our main choice in weapon, so having the ability to pierce any type of shield will be a huge benefit when we're face to face with every enemy we go up against. And since we're using strand weapons, we're using Dragon's Bite. Breaking a combatant's shield with a strand weapon has a chance at suspending those enemies, causing them to become easy targets. This benefit has a greater chance of occurring when using multiple pieces of this season's armor, so if you can get some good drops of the armor, it'll really come in handy. We're also using Horde Shuttle. Damaging unraveled targets with any weapon has the chance of spawning a Threadling, which will automatically track down and strike nearby enemies, causing them to become severed. Along with the Unraveling Orbs mod, we'll be able to make enemies unraveled when striking them with our grapple melee, which will greatly improve how often this mod gets triggered. And the last artifact mod that we're using is Solo Operative. This only benefits when running an activity solo, and it provides you with a 15% increase to all weapon and all ability damage, which is going to be another damage bonus that stacks on top of the bonus damage that we'll get with Wormgods and Banner of War. The combination of our Strand subclass, the Wormgods, and this seasonal artifact really provides Titans with an exceptionally powerful build that can easily mow through enemies quickly, and it has the ability to decimate bosses. Switching gears, let's talk further about weapon choice. 9 times out of 10, the Tractor Cannon is my choice of heavy. This provides a 30% increase to the damage enemies will take, and it also suppresses. temporarily removing enemies from combat and stunning overload champions. In our secondary slot, it's usually a weapon to facilitate modifiers. The Abyss Defiant Auto Rifle and the Zaoli's Bane seem to be the two that I keep coming back to, but sidearms are going to be really beneficial this season as well since they handle barrier champions. There's also a few new energy weapons that drop with permeability, a new weapon trait that changes the energy type of that weapon when activating any class ability. With that said, the Lithophobia has proven to be an outstanding bow so far this season, and with the added benefits of becoming Strand, this could be a great choice to those who love running bows and want to create some distance between you and enemies. When permeability has become activated, any weapon that takes on Strand energies will be able to trigger Horde Shuttle, Dragon's Bite, and Unraveling Orbs. And then in our kinetic slot, it's the Swordbreaker, a Strand shotgun that comes with Pugilist and 1-2 Punch, which has some incredible synergy with our focus and melee, since it will provide a 100% increase to our Frenzied Blades after striking an enemy with the majority of our pellets. Alternatively, the Until Its Return is an amazing Strand shotgun that drops with Overflow and Surrounded, which provides the highest damage bonus, coming in at 47% when at least 3 enemies are nearby. There's a new shotgun called the Super Cluster, which can also come with Surrounded, and the new origin trait called Dragon's Vengeance, which refills the magazine when a nearby ally dies, or you become critically wounded. So if you don't have the Swordbreaker or Until Its Return, the Super Cluster is going to serve as a great substitute. Swinging over to our choices in armor, our main character stats orient around resilience and recovery so that we can have better survivability and in-game content. If your armor's low in these areas, I would recommend using Font of Restoration or Font of Endurance. That way these stats will have additional points provided when armor charges are active. Beyond that, our main focus is Strength to improve our Frenzied Blades regeneration, and Discipline to regenerate our grapple melee faster. Our choices in armor mods will continue this same focus. We're using Siphon Helmet mods, Heavy Handed, and Reaper mods so that we can create orbs to generate armor charges. Orb generation by Heavy Handed and Reaper are limited to 1 every 10 seconds, but keep in mind that we'll have additional orbs coming to us with the use of Wished into Being. Armor charges will be getting consumed and converted into grenade energy with the use of Grenade Kickstart. This way we can maintain our barrage of lethal melee attacks and 1-2 punch combos. If you are running Font or Weapon Surge mods, be prepared for those mods to become inactive whenever Grenade Kickstart goes into effect. We're also using Recuperation and Invigoration to grant bonus health and melee energy when those orbs are collected. And remember that each time an orb is collected, Woven Mail is going to be re-triggered, allowing us to continuously thwart off all of that damage. When we're going into damage phases, a Strand Surge mod is typically preferred, but when it's not damage phase, we're going with Absolution, so that orb collection will generate a small amount of energy to each ability. On our class item, we're using Outreach, so that when we cast our Barricade, we'll gain 12% melee energy as long as enemies are nearby. And since we're using Distribution also, whenever we cast those barricades, a small amount of energy, like less than 4%, is going to get applied to each of our abilities, including our super. And to improve our super's regeneration, we're using Hands On, and we're using 2 of them, which is going to provide around 4% extra super energy on each charged melee kill. This does get cut in half when those kills are achieved by grapple melees, but even still, if 3 to 5 enemies are caught in the impact, that's as much as 20% energy that could be generated. There's definitely a difference in running a Banner of War build this season as opposed to last season, especially when it comes to special and heavy ammo. But Banner of War remains to be an extremely powerful build that's going to tear through enemies quickly at any level of content. And with that, we've covered all of the subclass tree options, all of the armor mods, weapons, and artifact mod choices that you need to apply when putting together your own badass Wormgod Banner of War build. This is truly an incredible build that I really recommend you all to try. If you've already tried it out, then let us know what your thoughts were in the comments below, and let us know what your fashion choices were to make this odd-looking exotic not so odd. Thank you as always for checking out the video. If you enjoyed and found it helpful, then be sure to hit that like button below, along with the subscribe button if you're new. Both are greatly appreciated, and both really do help support the channel. To make a copy of today's build, you can visit the Destiny Item Manager link in the description below. And if you're a new Light Guardian or a battle-hardened veteran just looking for a new home, then be sure to check out the Discord link that's also in the description and join one of the greatest communities in all of Destiny. And until next time, Guardians, this has been Profane, wishing you all some happy hunting.